Everyone, this is Marilyn Picol, and for today's video, we'll be having our lecture on matter and energy. Okay, so let's first start off with our learning objectives for today. Before again we start, please make sure that you have your calculators and your pen and paper ready with you because we'll be doing some problem solving later on. Okay, so for our learning objectives, at the end of the session, students must be able to classify matter according to its composition, identify the states and properties of matter, use a specific heat to calculate heat loss or heat gain, and determine the amount of energy contained in food. Okay, so our discussion for today is basically related to your laboratory activity, which is the energy in foods. So I'm sure na-explore nyo na yan. Kung hindi nyo pa nagagawa yung ating simulated activity on that, medyo makakatulong to sa inyo kung mapapanood nyo muna to before doing the lab activity. Nevertheless, I'm sure you can manage that kasi marami din yung madi-discover natin during the simulated activity. Okay, so let's first start off with matter first. How do we define matter? Matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. Okay, so anything daw na merong mass at kaya niyang mag-occupy ng isang space, we consider that as matter. So for example, you have the clouds in the sky. Okay, so di ba, nakakapag-occupy siya ng space sa air. Okay, so may mass din yan. Same thing with, like this one, you have like the water vapor coming out of a kettle. Di ba, pa nagpapakulo tayo ng tubig, parang may mga singaw, yan, parang may maliliit na mga usok. So, yun, we consider that as matter as well. Another example is, ayan, yung ocean natin. Di ba, yung mga water waves sa ocean. The ocean itself, yung seawater, we consider that also as matter. Okay? Kasi hindi lang naman limited ang matter into solids. Okay? So basically, it encompasses everything. Okay? So everything that has mass and occupies space. So matter can be classified into different types. Okay? So yung una, ang classification ng matter is if it's either a pure substance or if it is a compound. Pag sinabi natin pure substance, it consists of just one type of atom or one type of molecule. So for example, iron. Okay, so iron is made up of iron atoms. Now, yung pinaka-simple na pure substance, we also call that as element. Okay, element. Ibig sabihin, meron ka lang ang isang type of atom existing. For example, yung hydrogen gas. Okay, so yung hydrogen gas, it only consists of, hydrogen atoms. So yung hydrogen gas is actually H2. And for that, you already consider that as one type of molecule. So yun ay pure substance. Pag sinabi naman natin compound, it consists of atoms of two or more elements, always chemically combined in the same proportion. So for example, yung water. So water is H2O. So by chemical composition, ang water kasi it's composed of two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. Okay, so combination siya ng dalawang magkaibang element. Okay, so you can imagine it this way. Ang compound ay made up of two or more elements. Okay, ang elements, siya yung pure substance kasi hindi mo na siya pwedeng i-classify pa into other substances. Okay? Now, when you speak of mixture naman, pag sinabi natin mixture, it is two or more different substances are physically mixed. Okay, so for example, yung air. Okay, yung air is composed of different gases like nitrogen gas, meron kang oxygen gas, meron ka pang mga other gases na present sa atmosphere, although trace amounts lang siya. Pero yung pinaka-majority ng air that we breathe is actually like around 70% nitrogen and around 20% oxygen. And the rest ng 10% na yun, mga small portions of other gases na. Now, air is a mixture of different molecules. Okay, so kaya natin siya tinatawag na mixture. Same thing with nickel. I mean, yung steel natin. Okay? Yung steel, yung mismong bakal na ginagamit, halimbawa sa construction. So, steel is actually a mixture of iron, yan, nickel, carbon, and chromium. Same thing with brass. Etong brass, ito yung ginagamit na madalas sa mga musical instruments. Okay? So, brass is a mixture of copper and zinc. Okay? So, kung mapapansin po ninyo, iba yung mixture sa compound. Okay, ulitin ko ha. Ano pinagkaiba nito? Kasi ang compound po, isa pinag-uusapan natin is dalawang atoms na kinombine mo to form a single molecule. Okay? Pero pag sinabi nating mixture, two or more ano yan, combinations of molecules. Okay? So dalawang sobrang magkaiba, okay? Na ano, na kumbaga na element, I mean na entity. Okay? So for the types of mixtures, meron tayong dalawang klase. So yung isa, yung tinatawag natin na homogeneous mixture, which is also what we call as a solution. Okay? Tinatawag natin siyang homo from the word homo, which means one. Okay, one. Because it has uniform composition. So in short, pwede natin sabihin that individual components cannot be seen. Okay, for example ng homogeneous mixture, yung pag nagtitimpla tayo ng instant coffee, okay? Di ba yung coffee granules, kapag hinalo nyo siya sa hot water, ano nangyayari? Hindi nyo na makikita yung, yung pinaka coffee granules. Okay? So, parang yung water at saka yung coffee granules, isang ano na lang siya. Kumbaga, isa na lang yung itsura niya. Okay? So, it's uniform. Okay? So, those are examples of homogeneous mixtures. Pwede rin, halimbawa, ito yung dextrose. Yan. Di ba yung dextrose, ano yan, it's a mixture as well. It's a homogeneous mixture, which is what we call a solution. Same thing yung mga cough syrup. Di ba yung mga cough syrup, if you notice, ano siya, wala ka namang makikita mga particles dyan. Okay, so typically, pag sinabi natin na homogeneous solution, wala kang makikitang other particles. Walang other visible particles. So para siyang iisang ano lang, iisang phase lang ang nakikita natin. Okay? Parang they're acting as one. Now, when we speak of heterogeneous mixture, ang heterogeneous naman, ibig sabihin ng hetero, it means it's more than one. Okay, so multiple siya. So here you have no uniform composition and the components appear as two separate regions. Okay, so sobrang obvious na makikita nyo yung mga components sa mixture na yun. Okay, so for example, yung pizza, di ba pag kumakain tayo ng pizza, marami siyang different components. So, pwede ka makakita ng onions, pwede ka makakita ng ham. Kuwari, Hawaiian pizza, makikita mo yung ham, makikita mo yung, tawag mo rito, yung pineapples, yung tomatoes, yung tomato sauce, okay, yung crust. Okay? So, yung mga components na yon, sobrang makikita mo siya. At actually, pwede mo siyang paghiwa-hiwalayin. Kasi for instance, hindi lahat ng tao kumakain ng sibuyas sa pizza, so iba tinatanggal. So basically for heterogeneous mixture, mas madali mo siyang i-separate yung mga components mo kasi they are visible. Okay? Now, same thing, halimbawa ito, yung tinatawag natin na smog, okay, sa air. It's actually a mixture of smoke, 'di ba? Smoke and your air. Okay? So, kung mapapansin natin sa mga cities, sobrang nakikita nyo yung difference between yung clean air dun sa taas at saka yung pinaka-smog dun sa baba. Okay? So, hindi mo siya matatawag na homogeneous kasi very obvious yung difference nilang dalawa. Okay? Same thing with ito. Pag umiinom siguro kayo ng mga antibiotics. Yeah, for example, ito yung cefuroxime. I'm not sure if I pronounce it correctly, but nevertheless, di ba yung mga ganitong klaseng gamot, yung mga suspension, if you notice, di ba pag bumibili tayo sa drugstore ng mga suspensions, yung iba pinapatimpla na doon sa pharmacist o yung iba naman, since meron naman siyang proportion na nakalagay doon sa label, we just simply follow that and we do our own mixture. Now, di ba sa mga suspensions, if you notice, kailangan, di ba merong sinasabi din parati sa bottle na you have to shake it well. Okay, so before mo siya ipainom. Okay, why? Kasi nagsisettle down yung mga particles or yung mga components at the bottom of the bottle. Okay, so kailangan maging uniform ulit yung distribution niya. Okay, so kaya technically, hinahalo natin siya. Okay, so suspensions, yan, sa mga gamot, they are considered as heterogeneous mixtures. Now, if we will, relate that to our health. So for instance, this is what I've said earlier. So the air we breathe is actually composed of mostly gases, which is 21% oxygen and nitrogen is 79%. Now, heliox, okay, which is used in most hospitals, okay, in basically all hospitals, it contains oxygen and helium. So it's a combination, it's a mixture of oxygen and helium. So this one may be used as a treatment for respiratory disorders and lung constriction in adults and premature infants. Now, take note that heliox is less dense than air. So pag sinabi nating less dense than air, kumbaga kung sa hangin natin na regular, okay, sa air that we breathe, mas less dense siya. Ibig sabihin, mas kung iisipin natin siya in terms of flotation, mas lumulutang siya. Okay, mas lumulutang siya. So, sabihin, mas madali mo siyang mai-distribute. Okay? Mas madali mo siyang i-distribute sa katawan. Kaya nga sabi dyan, Heliox reduces the effort of breathing kasi nga lesser yung kanyang density. And it helps distribute the oxygen gas to the tissues. Okay, so kaya yan ang ginagamit natin. Now, in terms of matter, no, meron tayong tinatawag na 3 different states. So yun yung solid. I'm sure everyone's familiar with this. Yung solid, liquid, at saka gas. Okay, so let's just have a review of the comparison in terms of their characteristics. Now, ang solid natin, sa tatlong to, ang solid lang ang merong definite shape. So pag sinabi nating definite shape, hindi na babago yung kanyang shape. Okay, so kumbaga obvious kung ano yung shape niya. Okay, so for instance, yung mga wooden blocks. Okay, so wooden blocks could either be in shapes of cubes or pwede rin naman siya na parang rectangular. Okay, parang rectangular blocks. Okay, so may definite shape siya. Ang liquid at saka gas, parehas sila that they take the shape of the container. Wala silang permanent na shape. Okay, so for instance, yung water. So yung water, wala talaga siyang shape, di ba? So kung hindi mo siya ilalagay sa baso, hindi siya magkakaroon ng shape. Okay, so it only follows the um, shape of its container. Now, similarly, pagdating sa volume naman, ang both solids and liquids, meron silang definite volume. Okay? So, obvious ko ano yung kanilang volume sa solids, nako-compute natin ang volume. Okay? Meron tayong different formulas that we use for calculating the volume of solid objects. Ang liquid naman, meron din siyang definite volume. Bakit? Paano natin ito mako-compute? Based on the size of its container. So kung ano yung container mo, kung ano yung dimensions ng container mo, yun yung gagamitin mo to solve for the volume of the liquid. Okay? Now, so for gases naman, it fills the volume of the container. So basically, same thing with your liquid. Okay? So halos parehas lang din naman sila ng property. Ang difference lang with the gas is that medyo mahirap siyang i-contain in terms of volume kasi nga syempre gas siya. So unless enclose yung space mo, hindi mo talaga ma-measure yung kanyang volume. Now, another difference would be in terms of the arrangement of the particles. Yes, kung sinabi natin particles, ano yung, it could be, your molecules or your atoms. But for this particular discussion, we'll be focusing more on the molecules. So, sa pagdating sa solids, ang mga atoms niya or molecules niya, they are fixed and they're very close to each other. So, compact siya. Okay, so dikit-dikit yung mga molecules mo, dikit-dikit yung mga atoms mo. Now, pag sinabi naman nating liquid, random yung kanilang position. So, hindi sila fixed. Okay, so gumagalaw sila. And they are close. Pero, hindi kasing close katulad ng sa solid. Okay? Now, at the same thing naman, pagdating naman sa gases, random din siya. So, hindi fixed yung position ng mga molecules natin o yung mga atoms natin. But, in this case, they are very far apart naman. Okay? So, sobrang magkakalayo yung kanilang mga molecules or kanilang mga atoms. Now, in terms of the interaction between the particles, so sa mga solids natin, very strong, okay, yung interaction ng mga particles natin. So, kumbaga sa bond, sobrang magkadikit sila, so mahirap silang tanggalin. Okay, whereas for liquids naman, strong din naman siya, pero hindi kasing strong katulad ng solids. And in gases naman, essentially none. So parang walang nagbabind sa mga gases kasi they can freely move yung pinaka molecules nila or their atoms. Now, when it comes to the movement of the particles, ang solids natin, ang mga molecules kasi and atoms, nagmo-move yan. Okay, so for the solids, they vibrate in fixed positions. Okay, so gumagalaw siya pero fixed yung position niya. Kumbaga sa tao na halimbawa, yung parang if you're marching in place, 'di ba? Parang nagma-march ka pero hindi ka umaalis sa pwesto mo. Okay, pero gumagalaw ka. Kaya yun nga lang, hindi ka umaalis sa pwesto mo. So parang ganun yung mga molecules natin sa solids. Okay, so they are fixed in their position, but nevertheless, they are moving, they are vibrating. Now, pagdating naman sa liquids naman, they move slowly around each other. Okay, so gumagalaw siya, hindi siya fixed. Okay? They move slowly around each other. Pagdating naman sa gases ang pinakamabilis ang movement ng kanilang atoms or kanilang mga molecules. So they move rapidly and they typically spread out. So kumbaga sa tao magkakagalit to. Okay? Itong mga solids, parang yung mga molecules niya para sa mag-best friend. Sa liquids, para silang mga acquaintances lang, so kakilala lang. Sa gases naman, ito talaga, parang at war sila. So, hindi mo talaga sila mapagdidikit. Okay? They are really spread out. So, para kumbaga sa relationship, LDR to. Now, here are some examples of solids. So, for example, we have ice, salt, and iron. So, if you notice, lahat to meron silang definite shape. Meron silang definite volume. Okay? Now, so liquids, you have water, oil, and vinegar. And then for gases, you can have water vapor, helium, air. Okay? So, yun yung ating 3 states of matter. Now, meron ba tinatawag na 4th state, which is the plasma? Although ito kasi medyo bihira kasi talaga siya na na-observe. So, ang commonly observed sa mga matter natin at yung majority sa matter natin is naglalay lang dito sa tatlong to. Either it's a solid, liquid, or a gas. Okay. Now, when we talk about chemistry, meron tayong napag-uusapan dyan na physical and chemical properties. Na pag sinabi po natin physical properties, these are characteristics that can be observed or measured without affecting the identity of the substance. Pag sinabi natin it does not affect the identity of the substance, kumbaga sa tao, kahit magpalit siya ng damit, siya pa rin yun. Okay? So, hindi nababago yung pagiging ano niya, yung pagiging object niya. Okay? So it still stays the same object pa rin yun. Kahit halimbawa magbago yung certain aspects niya, for instance, pwedeng magbago ang mass. Okay? Let's say magkaiba yung mass ng 1 kilong bigas at saka kalahating kilong bigas. But it doesn't change the fact na parehas pa rin silang bigas. Okay? So yan, mass is an example of a physical property. So, other examples of physical properties here. For example, yan, shape. Yan. So, halimbawa, sa water na lang. Diba? So, yung isang timbang tubig versus isang basong tubig, ang magkaiba lang naman sa kanila is the shape. Okay? And the size. Pero at the end of the day, parehas pa rin tubig yun. Okay? So, kahit saan mo ilagay yung tubig, tubig pa rin siya. Now, same thing with the color. Ayan. So, yung color natin, pwede itong mabago. Although, in some cases, color also indicates a chemical change. And sometimes it could also indicate a change in substances. Pero pag pinag-uusapan natin yung color, typically, ano pa rin yan? It is still considered as a physical property. Same thing with melting point. Melting point, boiling point, for instance, for water, ang kanyang boiling point is 100 degrees Celsius. So, hindi nagbabago yun. At sea level, at sea level. Kasi ang boiling point ng water, pwede siyang mag-change depende sa kanyang atmospheric pressure. So at sea level, sakto yan, 100 degrees Celsius. Pero kapag halimbawa, umakyat ka na ng bundok, okay, usually sa bundok, mas mababa kasi ang atmospheric pressure doon. So ang tendency doon, ang water doon, it boils at a temperature which is lower than 100 degrees Celsius. So you can try that. Kung halimbawa, punta kayo ng Baguio, pakulo kayo ng tubig doon, hindi talaga siya aabot sa 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so usually nagkukulo na siya at around 98 degrees, 97 degrees. Okay, so is even the physical state of a substance. Okay, so ibig sabihin kung whether siya ba ay solid, liquid, or gas, same substance pa rin yun. Okay, for example, yung water. Diba? Ang water, pag solid siya, solid state, like ice ang tawag natin sa kanya. Pero technically speaking, water pa rin yun. Kumbaga frozen water siya. So, pero hindi nababago yung kanyang chemical position, which is H2O. Now, kapag siya ay natunaw na, so nagiging liquid, so yun yung alam natin na water. And then, kapag yung pinakuluan mo, okay, ano papansin natin? Nagiging water vapor siya. Okay, so nagiging gas siya. Alright? So, hindi nababago yung pagiging water niya kahit iba-iba na yung kanyang phase. Okay? So, yun tinatawag natin na physical properties. Now, pag sinabi naman nating physical change, okay, the state, size, or appearance will change, but the composition does not change. Okay, so siya naman refers to changes na pwedeng pagdaanan ng isang object or ng isang matter. So this one does not produce new substances. So wala kang ma-form na bagong substance. Kasi for example, yan, yung the solid state of water, which is let's say snow or ice, has a different appearance than its liquid or gaseous state. But all three states are water. So katulad nga na nabanggit ko kanina, di ba? Yung water, pwede siyang ice, pwede siyang yung naka-liquid form, yung water na alam natin, and pwede na siya maging water vapor. Nagbago man yung kanyang state, pero same thing, water pa rin siya. So ang tawag natin doon ay physical change. Kasi for example, meron kang a piece of paper and then hinati mo siya into, pira-piraso mo siya. Okay, so at the end of the day, kahit ilang beses mo siya pira-pirasuhin, hindi ba rin nagbabago yung composition ng papel? Papel pa rin yun, it's still paper. Okay, kahit na pinagpira-piraso mo siya. So we can say there that your paper has undergone physical change. Now, here are some examples of physical changes. So physical change is also used to separate mixtures because there is no chemical interaction between the components. Okay? So pwede tayong mag-separate ng mga mixture by using filtration. Okay, for instance, halimbawa yung mga naghahanap minsan ng ng gold, okay? Mga gold nuggets ba mga sa gold mine. Minsan kahit sa river, chine-check nila yan. So ginagawa nila diyan, kumukuha sila ng pangsala. Yan. Tapos, kukuha sila ng, let's say, isang dakot na soil coming from the river. And then, yun, parang sinasala nila. Okay? Hanggang sa makita nila yung gold. Okay? So, that's an example of filtration. Now, another example here is what we call as yung chromatography. Sa chromatography naman, meron kang different tawag mo dito, naka-liquid form siya, and then gagamit ka ng chromatography paper. Kasi different, let's say different types of liquids will be absorbed by the chromatography paper. So depende dun sa density ng ating liquid. So napakaganda experiment ito kasi makikita nyo na nag-iiba-iba yung color ng chromatography paper. So ibig sabihin nun, meron kang different types of liquids na nandoon sa iyong solution. Okay, so when we speak of chemical properties, okay, so this one describes the ability of a substance to change into a new substance. Okay, for example, the rusting of corrosion of a metal such as iron is a chemical property. So, di ba lahat naman ng mga metals, most metals actually, they do, nagko-corrode siya. Okay, or kinakalawang siya. Minsan nga kahit sabihin mo na nakalagay dun sa mga kitchenwares na aluminum daw siya, pero after ilang years, mapapansin mo may kalawang na. Okay, kasi yun nga, yung metals nga, they have this property, this chemical property na talaga nagko-corrode sila. Now, same thing kapag sinabi natin chemical change, nagfo-form ka ng bagong substance, okay, from the original substance. So, like what I said here, the original substances, iron and oxygen, are converted into a new substance, which is what we call the rust. Okay, itong rust na to, ito yung ferrous oxide. Okay, scientific name niya, ferrous oxide. Ito yung pinaka-chemical name niya. Okay, it's ferrous oxide. So, which has different physical and chemical properties. Okay, so ibang-iba itong rust, yung properties ng rust, compare mo doon sa original na metal kung saan siya tumubo. In this case, which is your iron. Okay? So, kaya kung mapapansin nyo, basta ang metal na-expose na siya into air, so humahalo na po siya sa oxygen. And yun na yung nagiging cause ng kanyang corrosion. So, maaring different metals would corrode at different rates kasi hindi naman lahat ng metals is nangangalawang all at the same time. Kasi yung iba, mas matagal na exposure, yung iba na mabibilang pa ng mga ilang taon, ganon. Okay? So, but the property, yung mismong rust mismo, if you notice, di ba, napakapino ng ng mga na itong ferrous oxide na to. Okay? Kung mapapansin nyo na namumuo dun sa dun sa metals ninyo. Kasi, and you can easily like scrape that off actually. So, some would be solid, some naman yung parang powdery yung dating. Okay, so here are some comparisons between physical and chemical changes. Okay, so for example, ito. Yung water natin, kapag pinakuluan natin siya, it forms water vapor. So this one is an example of a physical change kasi kahit pakuluan mo pa yung water, dahil nag-change lang naman yung kanyang state from liquid into gaseous form, hindi naman nababago yung pagiging tubig niya. Okay? So that's just considered as a physical change. Now, nagiging chemical change siya kapag ganito. Kapag yung water mo, hinalo mo siya sa cesium, okay? When you combine them, they would explode. Okay, so yan ang indication ng chemical change. Okay, so usually, ang chemical change, ang mga indicators yan is pwedeng nagbago yung color ng substance kapag kinombine mo sila. So that would mean there's a chemical change. Pwede rin na nagpo-form ka ng gas. Okay, so sa mga experiments, usually ma-observe niyo nagpo-form siya ng bubbles. Okay, kasi the formation of bubbles indicates that there is gas. Okay, so yun yung mga common na changes na ma-observe natin o yun yung common characteristics ng mga substances na nag-undergo ng chemical changes. Yung iba naman, nag-generate ng heat. Okay? So, pwedeng mag-generate ng heat and light. Okay? So, for instance, kapag yung let's say yung magnesium ribbon. Okay? Ang magnesium ribbon is, I'm not sure kung nakapag-experiment kayo before, pero maybe yung high school. Pero ang magnesium ribbon kasi is kapag sinindihan mo siya, para siyang lusis. Okay? So, in that case, we can say that the magnesium ribbon undergoes chemical change kasi nag-trigger siya ng light, nag-produce siya ng light. Now, similarly, pagdating naman sa paper, okay, ang paper, katulad nga nabanggit ko kanina, kahit putulin nyo siya or kahit i-cut nyo siya into tiny pieces of confetti, paper pa rin yun. Okay? Iba nga lang ang tawag natin confetti, pero the thing is, papel pa rin siya. But, the paper undergoes chemical change if, for example, you burn the paper. Okay? Di ba kapag sinunog nyo yung papel, ano nangyayari? Nagpo-produce siya ng light. Diba? Okay, so now it also produces heat, ashes, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. So yung papel mo, kapag kinombine mo siya sa oxygen in the air or kinombine mo siya sa air and nagkaroon ng chemical reaction through ignition, ayan, halimbawa, siniliban mo siya using kahit posporo lang. Diba? So what happens is that nagkakaroon ka ng heat, tapos after na ma-burn na yung paper mo, di ba, pag nawala na yung liyab niya, nagiging ash na siya. Okay? And then, the smoke that is produced is actually called as carbon dioxide. Okay? Di ba kaya nga hindi natin nilalanghap yung usok kasi it's actually carbon dioxide. And that's toxic for our body. And at the same time, you also have water vapor. Okay? So, it's a combination of carbon dioxide and water vapor yung napoproduce sa smoke. Now, pagdating naman sa sugar, so sugar naman, if you dissolve it in water to form a sugar solution, halimbawa yung mga gumagawa ng arnibal pag Christmas time, nagle-leche flan. Diba? Paano ba tayo nagluluto ng arnibal? Yung iba ang ginagawa nila, halimbawa yung arnibal sa taho. Okay, so hinahalo yung asukal dun sa water. Okay, so pag hinalo niya yon, nagiging pino na siya, hindi mo na mapansin na para lang siyang liquid sugar, 'di ba? Hindi mo na makita yung difference between the water and the sugar itself. So again, ang tawag natin doon ay homogeneous solution. Homo means only one phase. Now, the thing is yung sugar, hindi naman siya nabago. So naging syrup lang siya, pero yung lasa niya same pa rin, sugar pa rin. Okay, now, nagkakaroon siya ng chemical change if we heat the sugar and it forms a smooth caramel-colored substance. Ayan na. Yun na nga pag sinabi ko kapag nagle-leche flan tayo at pinainitan na natin siya, di ba? Pinapainitan kasi natin yung sugar para mag-caramelize siya. Di ba? Pag sinabi natin caramelize, yung para lumapot siya and then parang yung color niya maging parang golden brown. Ganyan. Medyo brownish ng konti. Okay, so yun, it's the heating of the sugar actually produces, ayun na, a new substance. Okay, so hindi na talaga siya pure sugar. Okay, in that sense. Nagiging syrup na siya. Okay, now for the physical change naman, halimbawa iron. Iron has a melting point of 1,538 degrees Celsius. So ang iron natin, natutunaw siya at this temperature. Pero, natunaw lang siya, pero iron pa rin siya. Hindi naman nababago yung pagiging iron niya. But iron undergoes chemical change. Ayan, when it combines with oxygen to form an orange-red iron oxide. So, yun ang tinatawag natin na rust. Okay, so when it comes to energy and heat, actually very much related tong dalawa na to. So, discuss muna natin yung difference between potential energy and kinetic energy. So pag sinabi nating potential energy, this is determined by the position or composition of a substance. Okay, so ito yung kind of energy na meron ng isang object kapag siya ay at rest. Okay, sabihin, hindi siya gumagalaw. Okay, hindi siya gumagalaw. For example, nakatayo ka sa 4th floor. Okay? At hindi ka bumababa ng elevator. So, at that point, meron kang tinatawag na potential energy. Usually kasi ang potential energy is depende sa position mo. The higher the position is, or mas malayo ka doon sa ground level, mas mataas ang iyong potential energy. Okay? Pwede rin ang potential energy is nanggagaling halimbawa sa food na kinakain natin, 'di ba? Yung food na kinakain natin, merong energy 'yon, okay? So hangga't hindi natin siya kinakain, ang tawag sa kanya ay potential energy pa lang. Okay? Kasi hindi pa siya gumagalaw eh. Now, another example is, halimbawa, yung battery. Okay. So, what you have in the battery is actually potential energy. Okay. At hindi siya mababago hanggat hindi mo ginagamit yung battery na yun to power your gadget. Okay. Kapag sinabi naman natin kinetic energy is the energy of motion. So, pag sinabi natin energy of motion, gumagalaw siya. Di ba kanina sabi ko, ang potential energy, hindi gumagalaw yung object. Sa kinetic energy naman, yung object mo naman ay gumagalaw na. Kaya ka nagkakaroon ng kinetic energy. So for example, gusto natin magpapayat at gusto natin mag-jogging. So yung act ng pagja-jogging natin, okay, that is an example of kinetic energy. Okay, so meron tayong kinetic energy sa katawan natin. Okay, to do that. Now, if you notice, they are actually related. So, for instance, balik ako sa example kanina ng jogging. So, may mga tao na bago sila mag-jogging, minsan nagbe-breakfast na lang muna sila. Okay, so, para syempre may energy. So, yung potential energy in their food, once it enters the body and it is digested, it will now be converted into kinetic energy kapag gumagalaw tayo. Okay? So, kaya mapapansin niyo, 'di ba, parang kapag halimbawa gutom tayo, wala tayong pagkain, hindi ka halos makagalaw or parang hirap na hirap kang gumalaw. Why? Kasi kailangan mo ng fuel, kailangan mo ng energy for you to move. Okay? So, basically, yung potential energy natin, nako-convert lang to into kinetic energy. Okay? So, they are actually related. Now, pag sinabi naman natin heat, this is the energy associated with the motion of the particle. Okay, so heat. Ibig sabihin, related siya dun sa paggalaw ng particles natin. So that means, halimbawa, let's say if you will compare the heat coming from tap water and then yung heat na meron ka sa boiling water. Okay, so we can expect na kumpara dun sa tap water, yung boiling water, dahil mas mataas yung kanyang heat, okay, ano nangyayari doon? Mas mabilis yung movement ng kanyang water molecules. Okay, so ganun po siya because they are related. So basically, the energy that you have in any substance, na-observe po siya through the temperature. So mas mataas ang temperature, ibig sabihin mas mataas ang energy. At kung mas mataas ang energy, ibig sabihin, mas mataas din yung heat at mas mabilis din yung movement ng iyong mga particles. So you can expect na yung water molecules sa boiling water has greater heat or it possesses a greater amount of energy compared to your, let's say, ice. Kasi ang ice, ano siya mas mababa yung temperature niya. Actually, the heat is also related to temperature. Mas mataas ang temperature mo, ibig sabihin, mas mataas yung heat. So, medyo madali na siyang tandaan kasi 'di ba in real life, halimbawa, pag ang tao may lagnat, 'di ba mataas ang temperature niya. So, ibig sabihin, mataas din yung body heat niya. Okay, so they are related. Now, sabi nga dyan, the faster the particles move, the greater the heat or the thermal energy of the substance. Ayan. So, ito yung nabanggit ko po kanina. Okay. Now, sa computation natin ng heat, meron tayong tinatawag na specific heat. Okay, actually, yung pinaka-tawag talaga dyan is specific heat capacity. Pero, just to make it, shorter and simpler, sometimes we just simply call it as specific heat. Okay, so this is the amount of heat Q in calories or joules. Ang heat po natin ay measured either in terms of calorie or in joule. Needed to change the temperature of exactly 1 gram of a substance by exactly 1 degree Celsius. Okay, so ibig sabihin nito, ito yung amount na kailangan mong idagdag na heat sa isang substance para yung kanyang temperature, kung halimbawa nasa 37 degrees Celsius siya, para tumaas siya into 38 degrees Celsius, okay, yung bawat isang gram, okay, ng object na yon, then kailangan mo magdagdag nung tinatawag natin na calculated value of the specific heat. Okay, so but basically this one is constant. Sabi kong constant, constant siya for specific substance. So let's say ito, yung aluminum. Kaya ang aluminum, ang kanyang specific heat is given on this table. So meaning, fix yan. Okay, so lahat ng aluminum, kahit anong shape niyan, okay, or kahit anong size niyan, lahat yan, iisa lang siya ng specific heat. Okay? Now, ano ibig sabihin na pag mas mataas ang specific heat? Okay, ang ibig sabihin kapag mas mataas ang specific heat, for example, pasin niyo itong water, okay? Um, Lagyan ko na ito ng correction. I should be 4.186. Okay. So for instance, itong water. If you notice, ang taas ng value ng kanyang specific heat. So in this case, that's 4.186 joule per gram per Celsius degree, per degree Celsius. So kung halimbawa, parehas tayong magpapakulo ng water at saka ng ethanol. Okay, ethanol sa lab. Okay. Alin sa dalawa na yan yung mas mabilis na iinit? Okay? Alin dyan sa dalawa na yan yung mas mabilis na tataas ang kanyang temperature? So, by looking at your specific heat, pwede nating sabihin na, yung ethanol, since mababa lang, mas mababa yung kanyang specific heat compared to water, ibig sabihin, ito yung mas mabilis na iinit. Why? Kasi, in this case, kailangan mo lang magdadag ng 2.46 joules of heat doon sa ethanol. Tapos, kung dati siya nasa 24 degrees, aakit na siya agad into 25 degrees. Okay? Unlike with water, ang water, kailangan mo magdagdag ng what? Almost twice the amount of heat. Kasi dito, 4.186 ang kailangan mo para tumaas yung temperature ng water. Na mapapansin niyo yan, di ba, ang water, nasa beach kayo, you would notice na pagdating ng daytime, di ba, ang lamig pa rin ng tubig? Di ba, ng seawater, kahit na tanghaling tapat na malamig pa rin siya. Why? Kasi napakataas ng specific heat capacity ng water. If you notice sa lahat ng mga objects dito, sa lahat ng substances dito, ito lang, water, ang may pinakamataas na specific heat. Okay? Also, that means na kailangan mo ng mas maraming amount of heat na idadagdag mo dun sa water para tumaas yung temperature niya or para uminit siya. Okay? And kaya nga yung tubig natin sa dagat, hindi siya, pag daytime siya, hindi siya agad-agad na umiinit. Okay, malamig pa rin siya. But the reverse thing happens naman pagdating sa nighttime. So ano nangyayari sa nighttime? Ang nangyayari sa nighttime naman, mas mainit naman yung tubig. Okay? Compared dun sa umaga. Okay, bakit ganon? Kasi lahat ng heat during the day na absorb na ng ating water. Okay, na ating seawater. So ano ang tendency? Kailangan mo rin mag-release ng mas mataas na value ng heat para bumaba ang temperature niya. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, hindi siya agad-agad lalamig kasi ang dami mong kailangang ibawas. Okay? Because of the value of its specific heat. Okay, so yun yung po yung implication ng specific heat sa study natin ng mga substances. Now, our heat equation is given by the formula Q is equal to mc delta T. Ang Q po, ito po yung tinatawag natin na amount of heat. Now, ang heat natin, dalawang klase. Pwede nga value na makuha nyo ay positive, pwede rin naman siya na negative. Pag ang value ay positive, ibig sabihin nun, yung heat inabsorb, okay, or sinipsip ng iyong substance. Pag sinabi naman natin na negative heat, ibig sabihin, ito naman yung nirelease ng substance mo. Okay, so, hindi niya tinago, gusto niya mag-share, so nire-release niya yun. Okay? Now, C here stands for your specific heat. Okay, and then your M here refers to the mass of the substance. So, kailangan alam natin kung ano yung mass ng substance natin. And then you have here delta T, which means it's the change in temperature. So, paano ba tayo magkuha ng change in temperature? So, gagawin lang natin dyan, kukunin natin yung difference between the two measurements, between the high temperature minus the low temperature. So, yun po yung ating delta T. Now, let's have an example here. Okay, let's put that into context. During surgery or when a patient has suffered a cardiac arrest or stroke, lowering the body temperature will reduce the amount of oxygen needed by the body. So some methods used to lower body temperature include cooled saline solution, cool water blankets, or cooling caps worn on the head. So how many kilojoules are lost when the body temperature of a surgery patient with a blood volume of 5,500 ml is cooled from 48.5 degrees Celsius to 33.2 degrees Celsius? And let's assume that the specific heat and density of blood is the same as that of water. Okay, so identify muna po natin yung given natin. So, based ito sa given, meron tayong volume. Yan. Na 5,500 ml. Meron tayong temperature. Ito yung higher temperature. Ito yung lower temperature. Okay, so ang tinatanong sa atin is to find how many kilojoules are lost. So, the amount of energy that was lost. Okay? So, dito po, meron tayong specific heat capacity na a-assume natin na specific capacity ng water at saka yung density ng water. So, yun ang assumption natin. So, kasi ang blood naman halos water din naman siya. So, if we will lay down the solution here, pwede kasi natin i-convert muna yung 5,500 ml into cubic centimeters. Now, bakit ko ginamit ang cubic centimeters? Kasi po, yung density ng ating water, it's 1 gram per cubic centimeters. Okay? So, kaya po, dito ang tanong, paano ko nalaman yung conversion factor? Kasi po, ang 1 ml is actually defined as 1 cubic centimeter or 1 cc or ganito rin yan, 1 cm cube. Yan. So, pareha-parehas lang po yan. Press po sila ng value. Okay, and then I took the change in the temperature. Okay, so the change in temperature is actually 51.3 degrees Celsius. Okay, 51.3. Now, if you want to be like, like strict on this one, pwedeng ang gawin nyo, yung final temperature, ima-minus nyo doon sa initial temperature. Okay? Final temperature minus the initial temperature. So, sa problem po natin kanina, ito po yung final temperature. Ito yung TF. And then, ito 38.5, ito yung TI. Okay, initial temperature. So, kapag sinubtract niyo po yun, ay lalabas po dito ay negative 5.3 degrees Celsius. And the negative sign means na nagkaroon ka ng heat loss. Okay? Kaya ngayon tanong, di ba dito, di ba? Is how many kilojoules are lost? Okay? So lost heat siya. So let's continue with our discussion. So we know that the value for C or the specific heat capacity for water is 4.186 joule per gram per degree Celsius. So tinatanong sa atin is the heat in. Take note the unit that was stated here was in kilojoules. So huwag niyong kakalimutan yun kasi kailangan nyo tingnan kung yun bang kinocompute nyo is tama yung unit based doon sa hiningi sa problem. Okay, so let's first solve this by writing down the equation for Q. Kasi yun naman ang kailangan natin, di ba? So Q is equal to MC delta T. Yan. Now, take note na wala tayong mass. Okay, patay tayo dito. Meron tayong delta T, meron tayong C, pero wala tayong mass. Okay, so paano natin susolve ang mass? We can use the formula for density. Ang formula for density is mass over volume. So therefore, kung compute mo ang mass, cross-multiply mo lang to. So that means M is equal to rho V. Yan. So, di ba sabi ko sa inyo, reviewin nyo po yung paano yung ginagawa yung linear equations. Kasi yun din ang ginagamit natin to solve or to derive. Yan, yung mga formulas na ginagamit po natin sa physics. Okay, so using this formula, i-compute ko po na yung mass. So the mass is delta V. So substitute natin. Ang value ng ating density is 1 gram per cubic cm. Yan, or cubic centimeters. And then, this one, we will multiply this with the volume. Ang volume po natin ay 5,500 cubic centimeters. Ano napansin nyo? Makakancel yung ating cubic centimeters. So, natitira niya lang ngayon sa atin ay the mass. Okay. Ang mass po natin is equal sa, okay, so let's compute for that. So that's, ano nga pala to, no? So no need to compute. So this one is 5,500 grams. Yan. Diba? Okay, now that we now have the mass, let's now compute for the Q. So ang Q po natin ay 5,500 grams. Multiply natin siya sa C, which is 4.186 joule per gram degree Celsius. And then we will multiply this by the change in time, which is 5.3. Gawin ko na lang ditong negative 5.3 degrees Celsius, ha? So, ano ba mangyayari? Makakancel si degrees Celsius, makakancel din si grams. Ayan. So, ang pinaka-final na formula natin or solution natin is 5,500 times 4.186, okay, times negative 5.3. Okay, so let's see. Ano po kaya yung value nito? Okay, so this one is 5,500. Oops. Wait lang ha. So 5,500 times 4.186 times 5.3. Or in this case, negative. Okay. So what I got here is negative 100, I'm sorry, 122,000 and 0 to, tama ba? 0 to 2 na lang. Ayan. Kasi round off ko na yung, kasi ano siya eh, 122,021.9. Okay, so ginawa ko na lang 20, instead na 21, ginawa ko na siyang 22. Just to round it off. Okay, so this one, ang unit nito is joule. Pero ang tinatanong kasi sa atin ay kilojoule. So, we know from the word kilo, it means 1,000. So, that means 1 kilojoule is equal to 1,000 joules. Okay, so now let's convert this. Okay, so i-multiply lang natin siya sa ating conversion factor. So, here I'll put 1 kg divided by 1,000 joules. So, makakancel na itong joules. And let's compute for that. So, 122,022 times 1, of course, and then you will just simply divide that by 1,000. Yan. So, what you will have here is 122. Q is 122 kilojoules. Yan. So, ulitin ko lang, kapag hindi naman sinabi sa problem na i-convert nyo siya, wag na kayo mag-convert. Kasi masasayang lang yung panahon po ninyo. Okay? So, let's try to save time kasi mga quiz po natin ay may time pressure. Alright, so let's have another example here. So, when 655 joules is added to a sample of ethanol, its temperature rises from 18.2 degrees Celsius to 32.8 degrees Celsius. So, what is the mass in grams of the ethanol? Okay. So, ang atin pong given, identify muna natin. So, meron tayong given na heat dyan. Ito, when 655 joules is added. Okay, so nag-introduce ka ng heat. Yan. So, yan yung Q. And then, for the value for the T, alin ba dito yung ating initial temperature? Ito, yung 18, and then ito yung pinaka-final natin. Okay, so pag sinubtract natin na yung dalawang yan, we have 32.8 minus 18.2. So, what we will get is 14.6 degrees Celsius. And tinignan ko na kanina sa table again, yung specific heat ng ethanol. And it's found at 2.46 joule per gram Celsius degree. Now, we're looking for the mass. Kasi na tinatanong dito what is the mass in grams of the ethanol? Okay, so let's solve for that. Ano ba yung formula natin kanina? Diba we have Q is equal to MC delta T. Yan. Pero this time, ang hinahanap natin ay mass. So, ano gagawin natin? I-divide natin both sides of the equation by C delta T. C delta T. So, now it will become canceled here. Okay, so therefore, your Q now, I mean your M, let me just change that. Okay, so therefore, your M here is equal to Q over C delta T. So, substitute natin. Ano yung Q natin? 655 joules. I-divide natin siya sa C natin, which is 2.46 joule per gram degree Celsius. Okay, so makakancel na si joules here. And then, times your change in temperature, which is 14.6 degrees Celsius. Ayan, so makatatanggal na si degree Celsius. So, natira na lang na unit mo ay grams. Okay, so now let's check. Okay, so the M now is using our calculator. Okay, so we now have 655 divided by 2.24 times 14.6. I'm sorry, ano pala siya? Plus 14.6. Okay, so what we will get there in your calculator is approximately around 39. I-round off ko na lang to, ha? This is around 39 grams. Okay? Inano ko na lang siya, ni-round off ko na lang siya. But if you want to check it out, this is actually like 38.89 degrees. Alright? Okay, so if ever po na nakalimutan nyo na to or hindi nyo masyadong masundan yung discussion, pwede nyo naman pong ulit-ulitin yung video para mag-guess nyo po siya. Okay? Right. Now, we also have what we call as heat exchange. So, pag sinabi natin heat exchange, ang heat kasi is nagmo-move siya, hindi naman kasi siya permanent. So, heat that is lost is also equal to the heat that is gained. Okay, so, for example na lang, halimbawa, nagtimpla ka ng mainit na kape. Okay? And then, pagkatimpla mo sa kanya, iniwan mo siya sa table. So, after a while, mapapansin mo, yung kape mo, malamig na siya. Okay? So, ano nangyari doon? So, yung heat that is coming from the coffee, okay, it is actually moved into the environment. So, lumipat siya doon sa mas malamig na environment. Kumbaga, doon sumingaw yung heat natin. Okay? Now, ito namang heat na to na nirelease ng ating object, ang nangyayari naman, meron namang another object that absorbs the heat. Okay? So, for example, yung sa case kanina ng hot coffee. So, yung hot coffee, nagre-release siya ng heat sa air, sa air inside the room. And at the same time, ito namang air inside the room, ina-absorb naman niya or nagigain niya yung heat na yun. Okay, so in short, Q loss is just equal to Q gained. Okay, so let's try an example here. A 44-gram piece of chromium metal at 58.3 degrees Celsius is dropped into a beaker containing 2 grams of water at 24.6 degrees Celsius. So all the heat lost by the metal heats the water. So lahat daw ng nawala dun sa metal ay napunta dun sa water. So the final temperature of the water and the metal is 31 degrees Celsius. So calculate the specific heat in joule per gram degree Celsius of chromium. Okay, so lista muna natin yung given natin. Now, dito meron tayong dalawang magkaibang substances. Meron tayong chromium at meron tayong water. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, gumawa ako ng table dito to clearly represent which is which. Okay, so sa chromium, meron kang mass na 44 grams. Sa water, meron kang 20. Sa chromium, ang kanya initial temperature is 58.3. Sa water naman, ang kanya initial temperature is 24.6. And both chromium and water has the same final temperature. Okay, so bakit ganun? Kasi, basically, pag sinabi nating heat, yung heat natin kasi is that nagmo-move siya from an area of lower temperature, from the area of a higher temperature to an area of low temperature. Okay, so patuloy na magmo-move yung heat natin hanggang sa darating ang time, matitigil na siya at ang tawag natin doon ay thermal equilibrium. Now, yung dalawang objects na involved, ano yun, magiging magkaparehas na yung kanilang temperature. Okay? So, yun po yun. So, now, sabi natin, hahanapin natin yung specific heat ng chromium. Now, remember, na kung titingnan natin dito, no, yung water ang nag-absorb ng heat. Okay, bakit? O siya yung nag-gain. Kasi from a lower temperature, tumaas yung kanyang final temperature. Now, at the same time naman si chromium, mapapansin natin, bumaba yung temperature niya. So, ano ibig sabihin pag bumababa yung temperature? Ibig sabihin nun, nagre-release siya ng heat. At yung heat na na-release ni chromium ay parang na-transfer lang kay water. Okay, so that's how it goes. Now, so therefore, you can use the formula Q lost. And Q lost is equal to the Q gained. Okay, so let's do this. So let's first compute the Q for the water. Okay, so Q is MC delta T. So substitute natin. So we have 20 grams times 4.186 joule per gram. Teka lang po, isulat ko lang ng mas maayos ito. Yan, kasi nagawan ko siya ng slash. So, para mas madali niyong makita kung ano yung unit na makakancel. So this is joule, gram, degree Celsius. Oops, mali. Nasobrahan ng aking C. Okay, let me just change this one. Okay, degree Celsius. Okay, so what do you think happened? So itong G, 'di ba? Makakancel siya. Okay, so next one, i-multiply natin siya doon sa ating change in temperature. Okay, so ano ba yung ating change in temperature for this one? So, i-minus ko na lang. So, 31 minus 24.6. Okay, so we get 6.4. Okay, 6.4 degrees. Yan. So, ito, compute na natin. So, meron tayong, okay, 20. Okay, using your calculator, so that's 20 times 4.186 times your, ano yun, 6.4. 6.4. Okay. So, what happens now? This is 6.4 degrees Celsius, by the way. Ayan. So, ano mangyayari? Makakancel si unit ng degrees Celsius, leaving you with the joule. So, based on my calculations, that's 530. Round off ko na lang 36 kasi this is 135.80. Okay? Yan. So, ito ngayon yung heat na nagain niya. Now, this is also equal to the heat that was lost. Okay? So, since sila ay magkaparehas, ang gagawin ko naman, pagdating naman sa chromium, balik tayo sa formula. So, Q is equal to MC delta T. This time, ang hinahanap natin ay C. So, ang gagawin natin, i-divide natin both sides of the equation by M delta T. Same thing din sa kabila, M delta T. So, what will happen? Makakancel si delta T at saka si M. Okay, so leaving you with the formula, C is equal to Q over M delta T. Yan, okay, so substitute natin, no? Ang gagamitin natin na Q ay yung na-solve natin kanina. So that's 536 joules. Divide natin siya dun sa mass natin. Ang mass po natin ng chromium ay 44 grams. Ang kanya pong change in temperature, okay, so subtract natin. Si 58.3 minus natin kay 31. Okay, so what I got is 27.3 degrees Celsius. Yan. Okay. So, ngayon, solve na po natin ito. Pagsamahin na natin sila. So, 536 divided by 44 times 27.3. Ayan. So, what I got here is 0. Round off ko na lang, 45. So, this is in joule per gram degree Celsius. Ayan. So, ito po yung specific heat capacity or the specific heat of chromium. Alright? Ayan. So, I hope nakita niyo po kung paano na-solve to. So, ulitin ko lang. Kapag nagdikit ka ng dalawang bagay, nagkakaroon ka ng heat transfer. So, yung heat na galing dun sa object na mayroong mas mataas sa temperature is gumagalaw papunta dun sa object na mas mababa yung temperature. So, yung object na yon na nasa mas mababa yung temperature, nagigain naman siya ng heat. Yung object naman na mayroong mataas na temperature, okay, siya naman yung nagre-release ng heat. Okay? Yeah, so let's try another example again. Okay, so a 50-gram piece of zinc metal at 62.0 degrees Celsius is dropped into 24 grams of water at 29.3 degrees Celsius. So all the heat lost by the metal is used to heat the water. So the final temperature of the water and metal is 34.6 degrees Celsius. So calculate the heat in joules per gram degrees Celsius of zinc. So parang katulad lang din ng ginawa natin kanina, pwede nating isulat yung kanyang mga data as a table. Okay, so bakit ganun? Kasi para mas makita natin yung mga different values for the two. Okay, so remember na sa case na to, si water ang nag-absorb at si zinc ang nag-release. Okay, at yung value ng kanilang heat is just the same. So, ang gagawin ko muna, i-compute ko muna ang heat ng water. So, mc delta T. So, the mass is 24 grams. The C is 4.186 joule per gram degrees Celsius times the delta T. Okay, so kunin natin yung difference. So that's 34.6 minus 29.3. Okay, so what I have here is 5.3. Yan, so 5.3 degrees Celsius. So makakancel si degrees Celsius, makakancel si grams. So leaving you only with joules. Okay, so check po natin, no? So 24 times 4.186 times 53, 5.3. Okay, so I have here, round off ko na lang again, 532. This one is in joules. Okay, yan. Now, for the zinc naman, using the same formula, you have Q is equal to MC delta T. Since C is missing, divide natin both sides of the equation by M delta T. Yan. Cancel na to. And so, we have C here as Q over M delta T. Okay, so for the Q, substitute lang natin, tinakuha natin kanina, that's 532 joules. Divide natin yung kanyang mass na 50 grams. And the change in your temperature was, so compute muna natin, no? So 62 minus 34.6. Okay, so that's 27.4. Yan. Okay, so compute po natin lahat. 532 divided by 500. Tapos plus, asan na yun? Okay, so what happened? 5, okay, time up, ano pala to? Okay. So let me just repeat that. So 532 divided by 50 times 27.4. Yan. So what we will have here is, ito na, i-round off ko na lang ulit kasi 0.388. So I'm just gonna have 0.39. And this is in joule per gram degrees Celsius. Yan. Okay? So, ganyan lang po kasimple yung ginagawa po natin sa heat calculations kapag meron po tayong two different bodies and nagkaroon ka ng heat exchange. Okay, now, punta ngayon tayo sa energy that is contained in our food or yung energy and nutrition. Now, pagdating naman sa nutrition, malalaman natin yung amount of energy that is provided by food by basically reading the nutrition label. Okay, kasi doon yung siya makikita, yung kcal, ilan ang kilocalories niya, ganyan. So, ginagawa po dyan, actually, gumagamit po tayo ng calorimeter to find out what is the amount of heat that is released by an object. Okay, so in this case, yung food naman. So, ginagawa natin dito, yung food sample, nakalagay siya sa isang chamber. Okay, actually, tawag dyan is calorimeter. So, para lang siyang glass. Okay, pero meron siyang special na setup. So, dito, ang ginagawa is sinusunog yung iyong food. And then, kung ano yung heat na yun, tinatransfer siya dun sa water. Okay, na nasa loob ng calorimeter. So, ang tendency ngayon na susukat, of course, di ba yung temperature dito sa loob is nagiging kaparehasan ng temperature sa labas. Okay? Because they are in contact. Okay? So, doon na ngayon nalalaman, using the thermometer as well, as a tool. So, dito ngayon nalalaman kung ano yung energy contained in our food. Okay, so moving on, sinasabi din natin na, let me just forward this. Okay, so for example here, while working on his diet log, Charles observed that the nutrition facts label for snack crackers states that one serving contains 19 grams of carbohydrates, 4 grams of fat, and 2 grams of protein. So if Charles eats one serving of snack crackers, what is the energy in kilocalories from each food type and total kilocalories? Ayan. So use the table to solve this. Okay, so meron po tayong given dito sa table. Okay, so let's compute for the solution for this one. So based on the table, so identify natin kung ilan yung kcal na ng bawat isang food component. Okay, so yung tinatanong ko, the kilocalories from each food type. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, so first things first, ito yung given, meron tayong 19 grams of carbohydrates. So let's start with that. So 19 grams. So i-multiply natin siya dito sa ating parang conversion factor. So for the carbohydrates, that's 4 kcal over G. I'm sorry, teka. I-erase ko lang ito ng konti. Yan. Okay, so what do you notice? Makakancel yung unit natin ating grams and mamumultiply na natin silang dalawa. So this one is 19 times 4. And you'll get 76. Okay, so this is 76 kcal. Okay. And then the second one, you have 4 grams of fat. Okay, so pagdating naman sa fat, ang kanyang pinaka parang energy value is 9 kcal per gram. Mas sobra ako sa linya. Okay, so makakancel si grams. So this time you'll have 36. Yeah, 36 kcal. Pwede naman sa protein. So based ito sa given natin, we have 2 grams of protein. And then in terms of the energy value, so that's 4 kcal over G. So makakancel tong G mo. So this one is just equivalent to 8. So 8 kilocalories. Okay, so this is the concern for mom. I think this one is for Ma'am Jella. Yan. Okay, so ito yung individual values. Okay, now, we will compute for the total. Okay, so let's compute for that. So meron tayong 76 plus 36 and 8. Okay, so we got 120 kcal. Yan. Okay? So, okay, so basically, if we can also relate that in terms of weight management. Okay, kasi, di ba, a person gains weight when food intake exceeds energy output, which is so true. So the amount of food the person eats is regulated by the higher level at the higher center in the hypothalamus, which is located in the brain. So for food intake is normally proportional to these nutrients in the body, but these nutrient stores are slow. You feel hungry. If they are high, you do not feel like eating. Yan. So a person loses weight when food intake is less than the energy output. Kasi tandaan nyo yan, kailangan mas mababa yung ating food intake kaysa sa ating energy output. So many diet products contain cellulose which has no nutritive value but provides bulk and makes you feel full. Okay, and some diet drugs depress the hunger center and must be used with caution because they excite the nervous system and can elevate blood pressure. Yan. So because muscular exercise is an important way to expend energy, an increase in daily exercise aids weight loss. Okay, so yun po yung reason kung bakit kailangan natin ayan, mag-burn ng calories. Okay, kasi nga energy nga ang food eh. So kailangan lang natin gawin is i-burn natin siya. So para makabawa siya sa ating weight. Okay, so these are some of the typical energy requirements for adults. So makikita niyo po din yan sa ating pong textbook. So this is just like for sharing, no? So kung mapapansin po niyo, ang pinaka, what do you call this? Ang pinakamataas na value ng energy expended, okay, for instance, by a 70 kilogram person, which is around 154 pounds. Okay, so tingnan po natin. Ang pinakamataas po dito is ito. Ayan, running. Okay, so kumbaga walang dadaig sa running. So kapag tumatakbo tayo, nakakabawas pa yan ng ating weight. Okay, so that basically ends my discussion for week number, what's this? Week number 4. Yan. So now, it's your turn to work on homework number 3. Hindi mo na po ako magbibigay ng seat work, but rather I'm gonna give you a homework. Okay? So make sure to submit that on time. So I will be expecting your answers by Sunday. Okay? So with that, everyone, thank you so much. And if ever again you do have questions, you can always approach me at the dispensing lab at room 1205. Okay, so with that, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lecture video.